I've got the job.
You're literally wandering around Cardiff in a
going,
euphoric phase. Yeah.
Get to work on Doctor Who! Most exciting thing, yes.
You turn up,
Yep.
and they give you your job description.
If only. No, it was really weird going up there and kind of turning up on my first day and going, where? And they went, yeah, there's a seat there, take that for now. And there was no sort of, I think for the first 3 weeks, nobody quite knew what I was doing. I didn't quite know what I was doing. So the first thing I did, I met Brian Minchin, who was the script editor on Series 1 of Torchwood, and he was lovely, and he came out one day with this big pile of Torchwood scripts and said, read those. The thing I knew I was doing right from the word go was going to be doing all the worldwide aspect of the job. So I was going to be doing all the approvals on all the fiction and all the toys and all this sort of stuff. So that was clear. So I needed to know what Torchwood was all about. And so I read Series 1 of Torchwood, apart from the couple of scripts at that stage hadn't been read, and I fell in love with it. And Brian and I would talk a great deal about Torchwood, and I would talk a great deal to Russell and Julie whenever I could about Torchwood. And I was coming in on a couple of other script meetings so that I could trail Lindsay and other script editors and Helen and things like that. I learnt so much from Helen, so much from Lindsay, and tons from Brian. And it was weird. I had been a big fish in a very small pond at Big Finish, coming into the BBC. It's under Doctor Who, but coming into the BBC, coming into drama, where I'd always wanted to be. I was smaller minnow than that in an ocean. So I was nobody and I was nothing, and I found that really quite refreshing, because I could just sit back and learn, and I wanted to learn new things. Everything I'd done up to that point was easy. And it sounds weird to say, but it was easy. And now here was a challenge. Here was something that was going to tax me. Here was something that I was going to have to learn new skills, new talents, and things like that. And I was learning from three brilliant people. And then, of course, on top of that, I had Russell and Julie, who were just amazing. And it was very clear very early on that Torchwood actually was the show that I fell in love with before it was even shown. I just loved those scripts. And I would talk a great deal to Russell about Torchwood. Even when we were doing Doctor Who meetings, he and I would talk about Torchwood. So when it came to Series 2 of Torchwood, I don't remember how this happened, but it suddenly became very, very clear that Brian was going to script edit the first half of Series 2 of Torchwood, and I was going to do a majority, not all, but a majority of the second half of Series 2 of Torchwood. And I was like, oh, I found myself being a script editor on Torchwood. This is brilliant. And so I did episodes 7, 8, 9, and 12 of Series 2 of Torchwood. And Brian did the rest, and Lindsay did episode 11, because she wanted, quite rightly, I think she wanted to work on Torchwood as well. But that was the most brilliant learning curve, because that was when I sat down and saw how Russell's a genius. He's the only person in the world I've ever met who I would use the word genius with, and he is a genius. And you just sit there and you just learn television from this man. You learn story and structure and character and development and moving from A to B, and no one working on those shows could fail not to absorb Russellisms, but at the same time you never kind of, we were down here and he was up here.
Figuratively and physically. I've met him once or twice.
Yeah, I mean, he's totally a giant of a man, but he's a giant of an intellect as well, and you feel that. And he's also the nicest human being on the planet. He's the kindest man, and we would just he taught me, and I wanted to learn, and I listened. And I think I said to you last time, I have a slight authority problem. I'm not very good with authority figures, but with him, he or Julie could have asked me to walk on broken red hot glass. I would have done it like that, and so would every other person that worked on Doctor Who and Torchwood, no matter who they were, because they were the kind of people who everybody loved, everybody respected. They knew everybody. They spent the time and made the effort, and that team, that Doctor Who Torchwood Sarah Jane team under Russell and Julie, was just brilliant, and everybody loved everybody else, and it all sounds so terribly naff when you say it now, but it's true. There was I suppose there was a hierarchy, but it didn't feel like there was a hierarchy. Russell and Julie's encouraging you. You go to a tone meeting, and I was going to tone meetings at that point. Basically, I was nobody. But there were things were being said, and I must have been on my face. I was thinking, what about this? Maybe you could think about it. And Russell would turn around and go, what? What do you think? And I'm sitting there going, I'm in a room with 30 talented people who've been making TV for years, and he's suddenly asking me for my opinion, and I'm kind of going, I just think, and once or twice something I said might have made sense, and 20 other times I talked rubbish. But it is the fact that he was so inclusive. He wanted everybody's input, and he didn't go, you're a grip, what do you know? You're a makeup assistant, what do you know? If someone had something intelligent to say, he and Julie were encouraging them, and Phil Collinson especially. That whole environment was all about making the best programme with the best people, and everybody's input was welcome, required and encouraged. So to go into television and that be my first experience back in TV on that side of the camera, and being taught stuff by these powerhouses of Russell, Julie and Phil, you just can't get anything better than that. It was just the best 4 years, 3-4 years of my life. It was fantastic and brilliant.
I mean, Torchwood, you got into series 2.
Yep.
Were you involved at all in series 3?
No, because by that stage I was then solely working on Sarah Jane. Lindsay had done series 1 of Sarah Jane. She was going to do series 2. She then went off to do something else very briefly, so I filled in on Sarah Jane, and then it suddenly made sense that I stayed on Sarah Jane because I kicked off series 2, and then I stayed right through to the very end of Sarah Jane. And then in a little bit of downtime on Sarah Jane, I worked on 3 episodes of Doctor Who. Which people always think that I was a script editor on Doctor Who for 5-6 years. No, I was a script editor on 3 episodes of Doctor Who.
Which
one? I
ones?
worked on
Just
Waters of Mars and End of Time Part 1 and 2. They're my only credits of Doctor Who, and I couldn't frankly ask for 3 better episodes to have credit on. You know, and Waters of Mars I just think is just phenomenal. And David's Farewell, and you know, David is somebody I've known long before he became Doctor Who.
Well, he worked for Big Finish.
He worked for me at Big Finish. But he was an actor I'd admire. I mean, when he came to do Big Finish, it was because Toby Longworth, who was one of our regular actors, said to me, "Oh, there's this guy I'm working with at the moment. He's a bit of a Doctor Who fan, and you know, you won't have heard of him." And he said David Tennant, and I went, "He's that guy from The Bill who did that episode of The Bill where he played this guy." There's this brilliant hour-long episode of The Bill where a girl has been kidnapped and is inside an airtight van, and they know that David Tennant is the guy that's done it, and he's in a cell for the entire episode just going, "It's not me, nothing to do with me." And it's the most brilliant performance. It's virtually a two-hander between him and Sean Scott, and Tennant was mesmerising. And then at the end the police finally get a clue and they bring it in and they present it, and David just explodes into insanity, and you go, oh my god, this guy is a violent, dangerous psycho. And the performance of David gave, and it's one of those things you go, that's a name I'm going to remember because he's a brilliant actor. And then he did a similar thing in Randall and Hopkirk with the first episode of Randall and Hopkirk with a chainsaw. And so when Toby said, you know, this guy David Tennant, I knew exactly who it was, which I think floored David when he came in. And I said, I'm just such a fan of your work. And David was like, really? You just, you know, and I was saying, no, the Bill episode and the Randall and Hopkirk and blah blah. And we just hit it off. So anyway, working with him on Doctor Who, working on his finale of Doctor Who was something I'm immensely proud of, and it's a great story. And I still think that sequence with David and Wilf in the cafe talking about death, I just, you know, that's brilliant writing, that's brilliant acting. I think David's such a good actor. I'm not to take anything away from Chris or Matt or indeed the other 8 before that, but I think The End of Time, well, in fact those specials generally show how good an actor David is.
My favourite line is the I don't want to go bit.
Yeah,
they're just amazing.
I read the script of that, yeah, and I was crying, and because I could see how I knew exactly how David was going to do that. But I read that, I said, no, that can't be his last line. It's a horrible last line to give an actor. I don't want to go. And then you see it and you actually go, oh God, you know, fantastic.